This is Jake Lloyd reporting for Infowars.com. The headline on Drudge right now, it's red linked, breaking, London tube station on lockdown after explosion. Now, this comes amid a flurry of governments in Europe revolting against the migrant influx, the influx of migrants into the European continent from Africa, the Middle East, and, a lot of times they call it Asia, but in reality, although it's part of Asia, it's the Middle East. So right now the details are kind of limited, but emergency services were called to the scene after reports of a suspicious package, which sounds familiar. Police have since confirmed a minor explosion at the busy London tube station, but they're yet to confirm the cause. This is also very familiar. The area is on lockdown, and of course, we don't necessarily know who did it, but the whole argument that we cannot jump to conclusions, it's very tired, it's very overdone. We hear that after every one of these explosions, after every one of these terror attacks, but 95% of the time it always ends up to be coming from the same source. Typically, people who want to set up an Islamic caliphate, or they just are waging jihad, whatever the case may be. But this is not an isolated incident. We have plenty of these throughout the European continent. We have it in in New York, a truck attack. All of these are happening one after another. The Manchester bombing, all of these different things. Yet another one in Sadiq Khan's London. This is coming from the mayor, who said that terror attacks are part and parcel of living in a major or global city. But the European people are not really accepting that anymore. They're not having it because, as you see in Austria, in Poland, in Italy, in the UK with Brexit, you see that these people are they're not taking these excuses anymore that it's part and parcel. Oh, this is just what it's like, because this is not what life has to be like. You see here on this article from Infowars Europe, deportations are up 36% in Austria, and these deportations were triggered by a recent spat of violent crimes caused by migrants, including the random stabbing of a Vienna family by an Afghan migrant. Now, these are not normal occurrences. Well, the sad thing is that they are becoming more and more normalized in European and American society, but they should not be normal. The random stabbing of a Vienna family by an Afghan migrant. These people are coming over here and they're committing disproportionate levels of crime. And it's maybe an uncomfortable fact for some people, but they are committing a disproportionate amount of crime. And this is because we're importing them from places who have hostile ideologies to European forms of government. That's, whether it's liberal democracies or constitutional republics. These people actually hate those forms of government, but they hate us. They hate us because they've been told to hate us by their religion, by their government system, and they openly preach that they need to destroy America, Canada, Europe, the rest of us, in order to set up their caliphate. They believe that Islam will conquer the world, whether it's by military force, by other forms of jihad, or by mere overpopulating the native population. This is actually a very common tactic used historically. What they do is they move into an area that they maybe can't conquer by military force, and they overpopulate until they outnumber the native population, and then they set up a mosque in that place in the center of their newly conquered land. It's like how we would plant a flag in the center of a city that we conquered, in maybe in the medieval days or something like that. But this comes on the heels of plenty of these other attacks, and Europe is really fed up with it. Italy, for example, I'll go ahead and look it up right now. Italy turns away migrants. They actually sent migrants away from the border. Hundreds of migrants turned away. This is CNN. Hundreds of migrants turned away by Italy arrive in Spain. Spain said, Italy said, we're not taking these anymore. We're not going to be the trash dump of the world. We're not just going to take anybody who wants to come in. You can't just come here. And that's because Italy, for example, and there's a couple other countries who have this problem as well, they are the most easily accessed countries for these migrants, especially coming from Northern Africa, and particularly Northern Africa, but also other areas of the Mediterranean. So they have all of these people coming through, and maybe they just stay in Italy. Maybe they want to move from if they're coming from the Middle East, maybe they come from Eastern Europe and they want to move over to Austria or somewhere else, and they're not staying in the Eastern European countries. It's a very difficult situation because there's no way to actually regulate where they're going because they're moving illegally. They're not coming in by legal means. They're not sending in formal requests of asylum and these things. They're just showing up on the doorstep and then requesting it. So we don't know where these people are going, where they're stopping. And you can see right here, CNN includes this thing. The ship is operated by Doctors Without Borders, blah, 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 and had at least 100 minors and 7 pregnant women on board. That's not Italy's fault. That's not our fault. If these people want to come, they want to engage or embark upon these dangerous journeys, why would they do it with children? If you don't want to put your children in danger, then don't do these bad, these dangerous journeys. And that also relates to what's happening here in the United States. Donald Trump has been relating what's been going on in Europe to the immigration issue in America. He's saying we don't want to have the issues that Germany is having right now. And we've also been dealing with this whole news frenzy about the migrants coming through and being separated from their children. Well, stop bringing your children on these dangerous trips. And also, whenever the fake news media cries out about this stuff and if we stop this policy, then coyotes and other maybe drug smugglers, what have you, other undesirables are going to bring kids across so that they get a free pass. Oh, well, I can't be separated from my kid. And they're not going to be their own kids. They're going to kidnap people's kids, or they're going to buy them, because Mexico's basically Mad Max world right now. So they're just going to take somebody else's kids and they're going to come across and get free asylum. And that's how MS-13 members, other cartel members, drug dealers, human traffickers, all of these different things, that's how they're going to get into the U.S. And I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see, because of this, an influx of child trafficking because of this. They bring in the children that they're actually going to sell or they're going to rent out to be raped. They're going to bring them in as if it's their own child, and then we're just, because we're so lovely, we're so liberal, we're so tolerant, we're just going to let them in, and then, we wouldn't want to separate you from your parents, and then they're going to get in, and they're going to be abused and potentially used up until they're dead or killed, until they die. So, and that's what we do these days because we're so liberal and we're so tolerant. But luckily, as you see in this article, as you see in an article that I just submitted, it will be on Infowars.com fairly soon, the rise of right-wing Europe. We are seeing countries like Italy, Austria, maybe soon Germany, Poland, the Czech Republic, Hungary. We're seeing these countries rebelling against the forced importation, the forced demographic change, the mandated immigration quotas. We're seeing them rebel against all of that stuff, but namely what they're rebelling against is the usurpation of their national sovereignty and entities like the European Union, the UN, and all other forms of global government. So we will keep you updated on this news. We'll tell you if they release a motive or if there's any other developments in this story, but we wanted to give you a quick update on exactly what's going on in London at the moment. A London tube station is on lockdown after an explosion, and we can only speculate, we can only guess and jump to conclusions what ideology may be responsible for this next tragedy. But it is part and parcel in Sadiq Khan's London. My name is Jake Lloyd, reporting for Infowars.com.